You ever see this guy with the pillows on Fox? My pillow guy, Mike Lindell. He is the greatest. The My Pillow guy, Mike Lindell. And he's been with us right from the beginning.
I can't hear it.
Hi, Mike. Can you hear me? I don't believe Mike can hear right now, but we are going to work on that while we get our audio fixed here on the Lindell Show. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Vanessa Broussard. We will have Mike Lindell as well as there's Mike Lindell trying to hear us. Mike, can you hear me? Nope. Yep. Okay, so we're going to cut his mic and try to work on that if Ed in the background can get everything set up for us for this big day. We do have a big day, some big news out of Georgia we're covering. It's a 7-year lawsuit that Mike Lindell has been following. The suit alleged that Georgia's voting machines are rigged. On Monday, a federal judge declined to block the use of Georgia's electronic voting machines. So we're going to talk with Mike about that. Garland Favorito about that as well, who's really big in Georgia with fighting for election integrity. It's a jam-packed show today. We're going to take you all through the lawsuit, what it claims, and what this means for the future of Georgia. So make sure you stick around for that as we get everybody in line so they can hear us with our audio going on right now. But again, on Monday, a federal judge declined to block the use of Georgia's electronic voting machines. The decision that came down just this week. U.S. District Judge Amy Totenberg ruled that those who challenged the machines did not prove that there are problems with machine calculations. That's what she said in her order. So we're going to talk all about that. Georgia's governor says that the machines work. Secretary of State, also Brad Raffensperger, he's celebrating the ruling. We're going to talk about that as well. He made a statement on X about that ruling that's coming from the Secretary of State. And then we also have response from the RNC as well. Mike, there you are. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now, everybody. I think that was probably Brad Raffensperger, the biggest traitor this country has ever seen. He probably knew I was going to come on and rip him up one side and down the other. You guys, you all know, I have been talking about the biggest traitor this country's ever seen, crooked Brad Raffensperger, the Secretary of State of Georgia, a Republican, for over 4 years now. He is the number one. There's nobody higher than him. He was in on this. I'm just telling you that. Everything points to that because there's a hidden agenda that could be the only reason. And we're going to have Garland Favorito on today, who is down there in Georgia, has been fighting this with this curling case for over 8 years now. And I'm going to bring you back a little bit, Vanessa. Tell you, when I say these strong things about someone is because I end up knowing firsthand, okay? I don't just go out and slander someone and do this or whatever, or go after someone. Brad Raffensperger is as bad as it gets, everybody. I had the Raffy Awards for the biggest traitors in the country, and Robin Voss from Wisconsin kept winning it every week with your voting, everybody, so we had to discontinue it. It was like, he was hogging all the awards, and Robin Voss is a close second to Crooked Brad. Now, let me tell you.
I think we should bring it back, Mike. I think we should start doing it again maybe once a month and then have the grand prize at the end of the year and let the people vote.
Yeah, absolutely. But I'm going to tell you, everybody.
The biggest traitor.
Georgia and Crooked Brad is the perfect example of the uniparty. Now, I didn't know what a uniparty, I didn't know any of this stuff when the 2020 election was stole. And I started going into these states and going, hey, we got to clean up, we got to secure elections, go to paper ballots, hand count it. And all these Republicans are saying, no, no, no. And you get down to Georgia, everybody, when I say uniparty, Remember, I have given you example after example after example in Georgia of Democrats that get cheated by crooked Brad Raffensperger. These Democrats that are cheated are not part of the uniparty. There's Democrats and Republicans in this uniparty. This goes back to Bush, the Obamas, the Clintons, and I just said the Bushes. This is the uniparty. This is what came in and took our country, or tried to take our country. We didn't let it happen, and we're still not going to let it happen. The deep state globalist uniparty CCP. People ask me all the time, well, who did this? Who's behind this? Brad Raffensperger is top on the list. Here's what crooked Brad, I'll just give you some examples, everybody. Let's go to Brian Kemp, the governor. I used to call it the triple crown of crime, Vanessa. You had Chris Carr, the attorney general there, Brad Raffensperger, the secretary of state, and crooked Brian Kemp, the governor. All three Republicans, the triple crown of crime. If you're a Democrat down in Georgia, I'm sorry. The only time you're going to win is when the uniparty wants you to win. And that's usually when you have somebody running that the uniparty doesn't want Donald Trump to get credit for, i.e. Herschel Walker. His race was stolen, as we all know. Okay, what did he? And anyway, so the examples I've often brought up, and I can't wait to have Garland on. Is Garland ready? I want to bring him on.
He's ready. He's here. He's standing by. Garland, are you there?
Okay.
I am here, Vanessa. I am here.
Yeah.
Good to have you on.
Okay?
Welcome.
Garland, am I saying this right about crooked Brad Raffensperger? There's nobody worse. I've been working with you for 4 years now, and when I first met you, when we did absolute interference, you're telling me all this stuff in Georgia. I'm going, well, Georgia's the tip of the spear, and it starts with crooked Brad Raffensperger. And by the way, everybody, this Garland Favorito, he's we have voterga.com. Is that right?
.org.
.org, voterga.org. You guys support this? He has been, remember, we have people in every state. There's no one better than Garland. Garland has been fighting for 20, maybe 30 plus years. You're like anyone I ask out there, how long have you been fighting for election integrity or fair elections? You're the top of the list, Garland. I don't think anybody can beat you.
Well, I was fighting for it before it was cool to
Right.
fight for it.
Hey, Garland, why don't you tell us where this crooked Brad Raffensperger, by the way, I can't stress enough, everybody, he's a Republican. When I went into my fight for this country and for our elections, the Secretary of States were every one of them was terrible in this country, from Democrats and Republicans, blocking it every way. And now I put crooked Jenna Griswold in Colorado. I always say she's the worst Democrat. And then I got Brad Raffensperger, the worst Republican. So who's the worst? Well, Brad shines because he's got a fake R in front of his name. And even if he had a D in front of his name, he is the tip of the spear of what's left of. There's two parties left, everybody. And Garland, I'm telling you, the two parties that are left are the common sense party of Donald Trump and the uniparty of Brad Raffensperger. And I really believe that. That party, led by your Raffenspergers of the world, this deep evil. And you can explain that. Down in Georgia, you've always told me it surprises you so much when supposedly a party that's supposed to be Republicans is doing all the blocking or most of it. And so tell us about the curling case. Bring us back to the beginning. This case that just came to fruition. I'm so upset today. I can't even tell you about the outcome of this, but originally it was Democrats that brought this up, correct? But go ahead and start from the beginning.
Yeah, that's right, Mike. And it's kind of a long story. And of course, as you said, this is why I'm not a Republican, so because of the uniparty situation. But so we are independent. And all the way back, the story starts back in 2017. And there was a major breach in Kennesaw State University, which does the ballot programming for all the counties, for all the states. And was an exposure. A white hat hacker named Logan Lamb found that this system that does the election preparation for all of the counties, for all of the elections, was wide open and exposed to the internet for anyone in the entire world to hack, put malware on and have it delivered to all of the counties for all of the elections without detection. There's no way to detect it if you're a county. You can't detect if Brad Ravensburger's office, or this time I think it was Brian Kemp, if they were giving you bad information, malware. They have no means to detect that. So that was discovered in 2017, and shortly thereafter, the curling, what we call the curling case, was filed. I recruited our co-founder, Ricardo Davis, to be a plaintiff in that matter. And so Ricardo is one of the original plaintiffs from 2017. As soon as the case was filed, the Secretary of State's office destroyed the data, the servers. They wiped the servers clean. It was a big national news story. And at that time, Governor Kemp was the Secretary of State, and he came out strongly against the people who destroyed the data. But it turns out that those were his people, and the attorney and the attorney general then withdrew from the case and refused to defend the Secretary of State at that time, Kemp, and he had to go out and hire independent counsel to defend him in this lawsuit. Right. So that is just how the case started. That was back in 2017. So the argument there was that the plaintiffs had a violation of their, I think it was equal protection and due process rights, to be using this machine at this time. These were the old machines, Mike, and y'all, I know you probably remember, but that was the touch screen, what we call the DRE system, direct recording electronic. Now, what that system does is it produces a screen that no ballot whatsoever, and it's unverifiable to the voter, because once you touch the screen, your ballot, there is no ballot, poof, your votes go away. There's nothing for the elections officials to audit, and there's nothing that can be recounted because there's no ballot. So on a recount, they just simply produce the results of the previous unverified results. They reproduce those and say that they have done a recount when all they've done was reprint the previous unverifiable results. So if that's not all enough, there's no ballot, so there's no transparency whatsoever. So I was one of the people back in 2002 that said that's not a good way to vote. You shouldn't be bringing those in. I think there is a constitutional issue here. I believe it violates the Constitution. And I was not alone back then. You won't believe this one, but the director of Fulton County completely agreed with me and tried to stop the implementation of the original DREs back in 2002. Nevertheless, then Secretary of State Kathy Cox went ahead with that. We bought it for $54 million over the objections of elections directors and activists such as myself, and even the Republicans at that time. So they implement that, and as soon as they did, there were very controversial elections. We found out through the discovery in our court case when we sued to block it before curling. We found out that the voting system had been patched, and it was not in DeKalb and Fulton counties, and it was not recertified as required by law. We found that out when we deposed the professor who led the evaluation of the system back in 2002. And so fast forward, basically, I said that there was a constitutional problem back then. Fast forward all the way to 2019, and finally, Judge Totenberg agrees that there is, in fact, a constitutional deficiency in the systems, and she bans them from use in future federal elections. That was the right decision.
Now, hold on there, you guys. This Judge Totenberg, everybody, was an Obama-appointed judge, if I recall, and so she was. This is who the curling case got brought to, and her name's going to come up in a minute here, but she was this judge, so keep going.
That's right. And even before that, I have to back up. Before Judge Thunberg got the case, we had sued to block that original system, and our case went to the Georgia Supreme Court, and the Georgia Supreme Court blew us off. So then the Totenberg case, what we call the Curling case, Curling v. Ravensburger, which originally was Curling v. Kemp, because Kemp was the Secretary of State, that case was initiated based on the way that I had previously described to you. And after, let's see, it was about 3 years when they finally said, I think it was, let's see, two years, in 2019, Judge Totenberg ruled that, yes, you're right, these systems are constitutionally deficient. And she upheld the arguments that both not only our plaintiff Ricardo Davis, but another group of plaintiffs called the Curling plaintiffs with Donna Curling, as well as the Coalition of Good Governance plaintiffs.
And those were Democrats, right? The original ones were Democrats. So you guys originally were Democrats. Again, everyone, you need to understand this. Democrats had a problem with these machines, and the judge ruled that they got to go. But Crooked Brad kept him in because it was too close to the election. That's what he said, basically, right? Well, we can't do anything now. It's too close to the election. Correct?
Well, right, but the story gets worse. So of course, our plaintiff Ricardo, our co-founder of VoterGA, he's the token conservative of those plaintiffs. All the rest, as you said, Mike, were Democrats. Absolutely right. So she bans the system, and then the legislature mandates ballot marking devices over the objections of all of the security experts that said that they're not safe and they're not secure. And they put an instrument between the voter and their ballot, which should not be. And there's no way to audit what that ballot marking device showed to the voter. If it showed the wrong races or different races or left some out, there's no way to audit that. So they should never have been used.
Because isn't that with a QR code or a barcode, correct?
Well, here's where it gets interesting. Yeah, you're a great straight man for me. Yeah, so the legislature mandates ballot marking devices. So Brad Ravensburger then goes out and buys the worst ballot marking device system, or one of the worst that he could possibly buy, and that's the QR coded ballot mark. There are other systems that have that either don't have barcodes or they have a barcode but they don't put the votes in there. Either one of those would have been better than what we got.
Is this the $119 million that him and Kemp spent on Dominion machines? Was that year?
Yes, that was that's exactly it, Mike. Yeah, that's when they spent out
$119 million. And I'm going to interject this, you guys, because this is might be hard to follow this whole timeline. This is a 7.5-year timeline, everybody. It's been my biggest focus in the last 4 years has been Crooked Brad Rassenberg. He's the epitome of who's trying to take our country, the epitome of the uniparty, the epitome of corruption. And one of the things that the president did, and when you get through telling us here, I'm going to remind me to ask you about those QR codes and those barcodes, because the great executive order our president just did blocks that. You can't have it on the paper. And that basically makes every machine in Georgia worthless. But Crooked Brad comes out and says, well, this is a step in the right direction. He's a liar, people. It's disgusting what he does. But keep going, Garland.
Well, I got more to tell.
I like to put little Brad Rassenberger commercials within our show here. So keep going.
So speaking, I'll jump ahead and I'll come back. But speaking of that, so he just recently told the legislature he needed $66 million to make the system comply with the law. Oh, I'm jumping ahead. Let me back up.
Wow.
And that's after he spent the $107 million. That's after he spent the $107 million. But in addition to the $107 or $119 million, in addition to that, they backloaded all of the expenses for maintenance, testing, licensing, logistics of moving those BMDs around. All that went to the counties. So in addition to the initial expense, there's another $10 million a year of unfunded mandates placed on the counties just to take all these touchscreens around, which you never really even needed in the first place.
Right.
So,
Wow.
so that's another issue with the system. But back to your point, this system and the QR code. The reason this is so bad, Vanessa, is because it stores the votes in the QR code. So you as a voter cannot read the QR code, even if you had a QR code reader. You still can't read it because whatever's in there is proprietary. So they're conducting secretly counted elections with secret proprietary software, and then they want to preserve the ballots secretly on top of all that.
Right. And then they want to say that it's a paper ballot system, which it's not. It's like a printout in a computer, everybody. And I will say, here's another Brad Rassenberger commercial. Vanessa, do you think the song "The Devil Went Down to Georgia" was based off Brad Rassenberger? Yes or no? We don't.
Yeah. Yes. It's got his name written all over it. So,
yeah.
So the judge, I want to ask you this. The judge says that they did not prove there are problems with machine calculations, and that's in her ruling. Did not prove there are problems within machine calculations, and you've just gone over a dozen problems.
Oh well, I've got way more.
Hold on. I want to backtrack a little bit, Vanessa, and then you can ask me that question. You guys, this same Judge Totenberger or Berger, whatever his name is, when I came on board, everybody in the summer, I believe it was right away in 2021, I started hearing from Garland and everybody as I'm meeting everybody in this country from at the Absolute Interference movie production in Memphis, and the other one was Absolute Proof. But when we met at Absolute Interference, I'm hearing about this curling case, and I'm getting and I'm hearing about it, that how important this is, that this Halderman report, there's a guy named Alex Halderman that I believe he's a Democrat, he's for sure an independent. They looked into this and they found all these problems, and when they found them all, they wouldn't release the report. And Garland can tell us about that too, because there's more, Vanessa, before you ask him that. This Halderman report got shoved away. We couldn't get to it. I went down to Louisiana at a Senate hearing. By then, a guy I thought was trustworthy, he was a Republican, Carl Ardwin, the Secretary of State, turned out to be another bad apple. And but he's down there and he's trying. Louisiana's the longest running partner with Dominion, so they're wanting to get this report. They wouldn't even give it to him. You know, but I don't know how hard he tried, but they wouldn't give it to him. Then CISA comes in, Brad blocks it. The corrupt company, the corrupt organization of CISA comes in and they block it, and they block, and then where I'm concerned, it gets to October of 23, everybody, this same judge rules that, hey, this needs to go forward, and if you question the machines, you're not a conspiracy theorist. Remember, Garland, I took off my tinfoil hat and I said, yeah, I could question machines. And Garland, you probably had the biggest hat in the country on by then. And you know, you got this judge ruled that we could go ahead and keep questioning them. And then, of course, in January, we'll get to that where they broke in with a ballpoint pen and flipped the votes. But go ahead and ask him that. Now, I just want everyone to get updated what this judge is. And so go ahead, Garland.
Yeah, and Vanessa, before we get to your question, just to add one thing to Mike, what Mike is saying, Alex Halderman, Dr. Halderman, hacked the system in front of the court twice. Not once, but twice. And when I was there for both times, you know, my wife Tamara was there. You know, Mike, I know you know her. She was saying, wait a minute, that was the second time he hacked it, wasn't it? And I said, yeah, it was. So literally in front of the court, he hacked the system using his opposing attorney's pen. He didn't even use his own pen. He used his opposing attorney's pen.
Was there gas in the courtroom, or what was the reaction? If you were there, I've never asked you that. Did the judge go, wow, our elections are, you know, and she's a Obama-appointed judge. She's probably on the left. She probably went, Brad Rassenberger's as crooked as the day is long. What is 7 years they've been hiding this? We need, I can't imagine what went through her head. Did she look surprised?
I think, well, and the last time I think she knew what to expect because she had seen it once before, just in a different
Right.
manner.
Right.
But
Wow.
to your point, Vanessa, I'm kind of glad you brought this up because it demonstrates that there is a double standard of justice in America, and it kind of gets to where Mike is going. And so she did mention that, I think, in her order. But what is very interesting about this is before the trial in January of 2024, our plaintiff, Ricardo Davis, came out and got his own attorney because he was uncomfortable with the other plaintiffs because they did not want to get evidence of vote count failures on the record because they were afraid that it would help Donald Trump in some way, shape, or form. So they were suppressing the evidence. At least he felt that way, and I did. So he got his own attorney, and he was able to get evidence on the record of vote count failures. And he got, to your point, Mike, he got not only evidence that Herschel Walker's race, somehow Herschel lost 20,000 votes in 4 minutes. They were not able to explain that in court. Yeah, 4 minutes between 9:59 and 10:03. Actually, I think it was probably more like 2 minutes. But his vote totals went down 20,000.
Yep.
Yeah, and at the same time, the other candidates' vote totals, his opponent, Raphael Warnock, and the Libertarian candidates' vote totals went up. Raphael Warnock's vote totals went up by about 3,000 or 4,000, and then the Libertarian candidate, Chase Oliver's votes went up by, I think it was 336. So they're going up while Herschel's votes are going down. That's a technical impossibility. So he put that on the record that evidence on the record. He also put evidence of your favorite case, Michael. And that is the DeKalb County race where the voting system declared the wrong winner. And the only way they found that out is because the candidate who was shorted was shorted and she got no votes in the precinct where she and her family lives and voted.
Okay,
she
hold
knew
it right
she
there.
did it
Hold
for
it right
herself.
there. Right. This is my favorite one. I've told you guys a million times if I told you three. This is a Democrat, everybody. 3 Democrats. This is the uniparty we're up against. Crooked old Brad down there in Georgia. 3 Democrats and this nice lady and her husband get 0 votes. Garland, you know how many times I've joked if they'd have just, I can just see Rasberg in this little war room going, why didn't you give her 2 votes? We could have said the only one that loves you, ma'am, is your husband. Or they could have gave her 1 vote and they'd be tied up in divorce court. Why didn't you vote for me? But instead they gave her 0, everybody. 0. So that was a big enough deviation where they actually looked into it. But Garland, the media didn't grab it. You didn't see that on Fox News. We didn't see it on Fox News. That should have made worldwide news. Hey, look it down here. You telling me computers work? It's bad enough you have 2 extremes. You have Pennsylvania where you always have more votes than voters, and then you got this lady gets 0 in her own precinct.
Well, right, and the only place we saw that really was in a little local online publication called Decaturist, and they covered the story very well. AJC just gave it lip service as anything at all. And but the reason that we found this out is because they hand counted the ballots. And that's when they found out that it declared the wrong winners. Now, what was interesting about that, to your point, Mike, this will add to your story, it was once they found this out, Brad Ravensburger did not want to audit any other races, and his office started threatening the DeKalb County Election Board, do not audit any other races. Now, this is the same race or the same primary where he's running against Jody Heiss for the Secretary of State renomination as a Republican, and he had between 18 and 39% of the vote, and somehow miraculously on election day he gets 51% of the vote to avoid a runoff, with Jody Heiss, and then he declares himself the winner of the primary while keeping the ballot sealed from everyone in the state of Georgia. We challenged that race. We still haven't been to court. We have tried to get the ballots for that race. We haven't gotten the ballots for that race. So it's secretly counted elections, secret proprietary software, and secretly preserved ballots. And this is what we've got to fix with Trump's executive order.
It's exact. You guys, this is the corruption at its finest. Brad Rasper, you can Google. Everybody Google corruption or Google traitor. Poof, up pops Brad Rassenberger. The guy was polling the night before the election with Jody Heiss. He was polling at 38%. He miraculously made up like 13 points in a few hours. That's impossible, right? Then by the way, in Georgia, go ahead. In Georgia,
no, I was going to say, I asked the top polling expert in Georgia, who actually used to handle Brad Raffensperger's campaign. I said, "How could that have happened?" And he just shrugged his shoulders, and he said, "I don't know." And he is Georgia's best expert.
It's math. You guys, these are mathematics. I've told you all about the cast vote records. When the votes come in, you can't go negative like Herschel Walker did. We watched that happen in real time. We watched them in real time in November of 22, everybody. We watched all those races, all those senators they stole. What, they steal 5 of them? They stole, I don't know, 4 congressmen. It was crazy. Anyone that wanted to do what? Anyone that wanted to get rid of the machines, go to paper ballots, boom, they're gone. I could name them all. Jim Marchant of Nevada, Kerry Lake of Arizona, Mark Fincham of Arizona, Matt DePerno up in Michigan. The list went on and on and on. And they just stole Herschel Walker's because Brad Rasper probably didn't want Herschel running around down there. I don't know, because he wasn't for it, but they stole his blatantly. And you guys, one of the things too, with Georgia, we had another race down there, and this was with oh my gosh, Candace Taylor and Kemp, and who's the other one running for governor? I forget what the name was, but anyway, they're down there, and then what's that?
I think, was that Casey Cagle, or was that more recently?
No, this was in 20. This was in 22. It was the Candace Taylor. There was one other candidate. I can't think of. But anyway,
go ahead. That's okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, Mike. But anyway, you guys, Kemp. Candace, I went down there and I campaigned for her. Okay, there were 60,000 people on the ground that we knew were going to vote for her. Anyway, all the votes came in. If you remember this one, Garland, all of a sudden, Kemp gets like 70% of the votes and Candace gets like nothing. And it was terrible. Well, they figured it out, the mathematicians did, and every county in Georgia, now this is what I heard, I don't know who's going to fact check this. We don't have Alan Duke anymore because he's hiding out somewhere, him and his fact checker. Shame on you, Alan Duke. Disgusting is what he is. He's another traitor. So anyway, 5% of every county that Kemp got votes, that's what Candace got. It was so I forget that other candidate, but I believe he would have ended up winning, or there would have been a runoff, and instead they stole it so big that no one looks. What you're talking about with Ratzenberger, though, I mean, you can't even recount the stuff because he's the one in charge of the election. So you don't get to audit me. You don't get to audit me. I mean, the dictator in Peru tried that when he said, you know what, they're going to impeach me tomorrow. They're going to vote for me. He took away their right to vote, or tried to anyway. That's what Ratzenberger's doing. You take away your right to audit. This is so crooked. Garland, don't you ever get tired down there of every time you get to a wall, you're going, this is common sense. This should open up doors no man can shut, and shut doors no man can open. And then we get slammed in your face. You get like this Totenberg. You guys, now we're, so bring Vanessa back in if you can. So Vanessa, we just had this ruling today. This is when I called her this morning, Garlic, because I actually heard about this. Is 2 days later, everybody. So 2 days ago, I've been waiting for this case to get done. When I met Vanessa, I'm going, or when she started my show here, I told the audience, this judge last year in January of 23 or 24 Halderman hacks in with a ballpoint pen. And by the way, when the Halderman was finally released about a year and a half, 2 years ago, it says, hey, we got to get rid of these machines. So it goes to court. He hacks in, and now it goes to, so the judge takes it all in for information, to decide what to do. At that time, Vanessa, and I said, and I've told you this, if I'm that judge, I just trapped myself. I should, I'm going, she trapped herself is what she did. How could you be the first judge, Garland? I don't care what side she's on, or even if tomorrow, wow, we got to get rid of the machines. It would be like that judge in Florida that time that was brave enough to say, get rid of masks on airplanes. They're nonsense. In 1 week, everybody, there wasn't a mask on an airplane from here to Timbuktu and China and back. So that judge, do you believe, Garland, what she had trapped herself? This is what I believe. I think she trapped herself because I knew she couldn't rule before the 2024 election. There's no way she could she?
Well, right, and let me finish answering Vanessa's question, that because I didn't quite finish. We talked about the evidence of the calculations that we talked about Herschel's race. We talked about the DeKalb County race where we declared the wrong winners. But here's another one we put on the record, Vanessa, and that is in Tennessee, they use the same Dominion Democracy 5.5 system that we use in Georgia. And they found that the system, the QR code, was rejecting ballots and not counting the votes on those ballots. It's the same system. Well, we found the same error in Georgia machines because it's 5.5 is the same software. And so in Tennessee, they discontinued the use of that system because of what happened there. And that was the Secretary of State recommended discontinuing use of it to the county that found the error. And the EAC confirmed, Election Assistance Commission confirmed the error exists, and even Dominion admitted that the error exists. So we put that on the record as well. So you've got all that evidence of vote count on the record. She turns around and says there was no evidence. And during this trial, just to give you an example of the double standard, during this trial, she accepted every little bit of minutia evidence that the other two plaintiffs wanted to come put on, and the defense. But when it came to Ricardo Davis, she tried to prevent him not only from putting evidence on the record, but from questioning any witnesses that were already on the witness schedule. That includes the experts. He could not even call his own rebuttal witnesses. You can always, in a court case, recall rebuttal witness to rebut the other side. So, and they don't have to be pre-scheduled. So she completely denied his rights to a fair trial after 7 years. And then she claims that there was no evidence, even though we did get that evidence on the record. So what you have here is a double standard of justice, one for Democrats under a Democrat judge and one for Republicans in the same case under the same Democrat judge. So what happened, Mike, to get to your point is, she was backed into a corner because Ricardo had an appealable case. Now, if she had ruled on the merits, Ricardo was going to appeal and he was going to win, because you just cannot have that kind of a double standard in a court case.
Right.
And he was denied his rights. So in order to circumvent what actually, that scenario where she denied his rights, then she raises the standing argument. And that allows her to avoid ruling on the merits, because if she had ruled on the merits, then Ricardo would have had an appealable case. So right now, this limits his appeal to the standing issue, which I think that all three of those plaintiffs can probably win on that issue. But that's right. Gets to the point of your question, Vanessa, I think.
Yeah, and Vanessa, and both of you are answering that. You guys, what the judges have done in the last 4 years, we've all learned the thing. You don't have standing or we sanction you. One of the two. You learn the two S's, right? So everybody, all the stuff I brought in Arizona against these machines that they were defective devices, that was the first case. I was going to do it in every state. Started in Arizona. I spent millions. went to Alabama, dug in there. Well, in the meantime, I'm going, what are you talking about? It's held up in court in Arizona, and Mark Fincham, who's running for office, and Kerry Lake were the ones running, and the judge said, you don't have standing. Who does have standing then? I mean, for them to go 7.5 years in Georgia and tell you guys that you don't have standing, how do the Democrats feel about that? The Democrat plaintiffs, how do they feel about that when they start? We're way back in the beginning, and all of a sudden they have all crooked bread. They have all these Republicans winning, and they know it's from the machines. They've seen them get hacked into. Garland, how do they feel about that, the Democrat plaintiffs?
Well, of course, they're upset too. We haven't really talked with them, I don't believe. I don't think Ricardo has, but of course, they are equally as offended because now all of a sudden, they're victims of the same ruling that Ricardo is. And I suspect that she would have had a different ruling had Ricardo not come out and made his own case with his own attorney. It could have been different. But I do have some good news for you. Well, first of all, before I get to the good news, let me back up because you were talking about standing. So, because Vanessa may not know this, but so we had another case, and that's the Fulton County ballot case where our poll workers who audited the election found counterfeit ballots in the 2020 election results in Fulton County. We sued for that, equal protection and due process. And after 10 months, the judge decided that we don't have standing. Well, we knew that was a lie, so we appealed it to the Georgia Supreme Court, and we won. So they said that, no, wait a minute, Georgians always have had the right to sue an agency or official who violates the law. And they made that decision unanimously. All the Democrats and Republicans agreed, and we didn't even get the opportunity of going into court to present our case because they agreed with us without even a hearing. So I was a little bit disappointed on that, but thrilled that we got the right ruling there. And that was 2 years ago. 2.5 years ago. We still have, actually almost 3 now, we haven't seen the ballots yet. For that case. So that's another issue, but that kind of brings us to that cartoon. I don't know if you have it up.
We have it. We'll show that if we have it available.
Yeah, this might be the right point to show that cartoon because we have a little something funny that kind of I think y'all will get a kick out of. They're talking about Judge Amero talking to Judge Totenberg, and Judge Amero was our judge in this Fulton County ballot case. And of course, Judge Totenberg, as Mike says, is in the curling case. I'll see if that's, and I can give you a little bit more background if you want.
And everybody
we should have it. So Ed, if you have it, put up that cartoon. Nope, not that one.
That's
the cartoon
not it, Please get the right one.
Yeah, that's Raffensperger's response. He's talking about Stacey
Yes,
Abrams.
and we'll go to that here in just a second. And while we wait for the cartoon, Mike, I want to tell you this because I'm not sure if you have seen this. Secretary of State Raffensperger, he's celebrating that ruling on X. He did post this, hand-marked paper ballots that they just put up. Hand-marked paper ballots for Stacey Abrams' top priority when she was running for governor. She was wrong then, and her position is wrong for Georgia now, he says. He goes on to say in his post, there is no reason to radically change a system that is working well and that voters are highly satisfied with.
Yeah, but you know what? I think he's got like 16,000 followers. Nobody, everyone, that criminal for him to put that out there, and he also acted like the great president when he put out that executive order. I met with him a week before that, Garland, and so all that stuff, and there's a lot more to come that he's going to put out. And I'll tell you, that's going to help us from the top down and the bottom up. Do we have that?
Right, that's right. And we can talk about that in a minute. But the 15 of those $16,000 gave him pure hell on his account. I read some of the comments and replies that he got after he made that statement. It was absolutely hilarious. And
Okay, they're
So
working on it right now, so we'll get that one back to you. But while we're waiting on the cartoon, if you're familiar with Amy Kremer, she's with the RNC, she directly responded to him saying this on Twitter. She said, this guy should be expelled from the Republican Party. He's the most dishonest politician in the Republican Party. Because of him and his lies, Donald Trump and 18 others were indicted. There's her direct response to him. She says he should never be allowed to run as a Republican again. The truth is the only reason he wants to keep the machines is because he is benefiting from the machines. Without the machines, he would no longer hold this office.
No,
yes,
that's exactly
and
right.
there was some other great one. The DeKalb GOP chair, who is a plaintiff in a lawsuit, had a fantastic response as well.
I'm going to read my response to that if I can find it here.
Let's hear it.
Let me see.
You guys are and while Mike is bringing that up,
and we do have the cartoon. While he's bringing that up, we do have the cartoon to show.
Okay, good.
So that one's ready. There you go.
I thought y'all would get a kick out of this. Judge Romero is the one who tried to say that we didn't have standing. And so we've got the cartoon that says, here's Judge Totenberg on the left-hand side saying, well, please kindly tell me how to get out of Curling v. Ravensburger after watching Alex Halderman hack a BMD with a pen, switch the votes, and then hand the pen back to the Secretary of State's attorney. And it all happened in my courtroom. And Judge Romero says, well, Judge Totenberg, just do what I did. Tell them they don't have standing. That got me out of everything. Well, it only got him out of everything.
Temporarily. There's so much truth to that. You're going to go out. It's only out of him temporarily, right?
Yeah, I mean, we got him back at the Secretary of State. We got that overturned. So, I mean, at the Supreme Court, we got it overturned.
Well, that's good. And you know what? I want to tell everybody the word standing. You guys, the word standing, this is a word I had to learn. When you hear about anyone that tells you that, all these cases, Donald Trump lost all these cases. Nobody, are you ready, everybody? Nobody has ruled on any case with the machines ever based on merit. Ever, right. You guys. It's been disgusting. Not one case in the United States has been ruled out based on merit. You go up there and you see Tina Peters sitting in prison for 9 years. None of the evidence got brought in of what was actually what they were hiding and trying to make her, and they did make her a political prisoner. All the evidence we had of what Jenna Griswold did in Dominion and what they did to the state of Colorado and to the country, that was all my evidence. They have to hold this stuff for 22 months, everybody, and 26 months in Colorado. They just throw this stuff out based on, you don't have standing, you don't have standing, you don't have standing, you don't have standing. Garland, you know what they did to me too? And this is what our judges have done. It's like you talk about conspiracy, it's this big corruption, this evil that's out there behind all this. And you wonder, are these judges zapped, or are they threatened, or they say, hey, you're living with a pretty nice family? They can't all be corrupt, everybody. But I want to show you, I'll give you an example. Everybody's seen the famous tapes when I called my lawyers, or called the lawyers on the other side a few names because I got they attacked my pillow and lumpy pillows and attacked my employees. But then there's those lawyers in the Coomer case. This was a deposition, everybody. They looked at me and they said, well, a judge is going to see this. And I go, I got a big problem with you, Judge Wang. That's the judge out of Colorado in my case. And I said, and here's what I got on her for, Carly. In any case, everybody, if someone charges you with a frivolous case and you get charged, your neighbor, whoever it is, you go in for a dismissal. You put all your resources into a dismissal. I wasn't even there. I don't know the guy, whatever it is. And now this judge did not rule on that dismissal, Garland. It was 10 months later. She said, go do discovery and go keep it going. I'll let you know someday about your dismissal. That would ruin our country, because everybody that would get sued or go after them, you wouldn't have that first right to say, hey, it wasn't even me. And the Coomer's case, I didn't even know the guy. So I'm going in, I go, you mean you didn't even rule on this dismissal? And I spent tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars on this defense? I did that. I went after that judge and said, you better make a ruling or you're going to ruin our country. So the judge did rule. I didn't care if she ruled against me, but at least she made a ruling, even though it was a corrupt ruling. You know what I mean, Garland? So these judges, do you believe that the judges, let's take this one in Georgia. That all she did was she learned and took the easy way out. I can just say no standing. Now, who didn't have standing? Who does have standing then? Explain that one, Garland. For a common sense, you know, solution, who would have had standing in that 7.5 year old case? If it wasn't a
Oh,
Democrat person and it wasn't a Republican, who had standing?
all the plaintiffs had standing because she ruled time after time in their favor. She ruled that the old systems were invalid. She ruled, and they were unconstitutional, constitutionally deficient. She ruled that the Secretary of State's office, or found that the Secretary of State's office was not credible in their excuse as to why they claimed, why they wiped the servers after the system was hacked. She ruled again right before she started the trial, just 3 months before that they needed a trial. All of those rulings required standing. So, and as she's trying to claim now that we didn't have standing, that had already been proved for 6 years, it's an intellectually dishonest ruling. It's about as dishonest as you could possibly get, probably even worse than the Amero ruling of no standing. But it's like you said, they don't want to look at the evidence. They want to cover up the corruption. But the good news is,
and the cover up. Go ahead. The good news is.
No, I was going to tell you the good news before we run out of time. But go ahead if you want.
Roy, I'm just going to say one thing, everybody. One of the things, all we've won so far is we have broke through the biggest cover up of the biggest crime in history, everybody, just because Donald Trump got in. This fight is that we don't want anyone going, oh, Donald Trump get in. All the elections are fine. All the election platforms. You see, Mike, you see, Garland, you guys were all wrong. Donald Trump won. Whoever said it was about that, we never did. We never did. We said, hey, we need to go to paper ballots, hand counted, just like 132 other countries that have banned these electronic voting machines. And both sides should agree to that. And these judges, these judges that are out there, I believe we broke through and we can expose them. And when I say, we're going to recycle and make everybody happy, we're going to melt down the voting machines, turn them into prison bars, and not only having Brad Rassenberger right behind the Dominion one, we need some of these judges behind there too. I think they're all going to be found out once it starts falling. And I'll tell you, everybody, if you're watching and you know any judge out there, any judge that has anything to do with any of these election platform lawsuits or rulings, you better tell them, say, hey, do you want to save our country? You're going to be a hero or a traitor. There's no in between. And them traitors, we're going to get to the bottom of each and every one, because there's a hidden agenda. Here's a perfect case that all people, Democrats and Republicans, went to this judge and said, we've got a problem. And this judge made a ruling that none of them had standing. Well, if you make a ruling that doesn't help any of the people, and you were put in there to help the people, and it would be a judge, and you're making a decision, there's a very hidden agenda, and it's very evil. And go give us some good news now, Garland.
Okay, so the good news is, I got two things good news. One of them you've already mentioned is that President Donald Trump, in his Executive Order 14248, has told the EAC to update the standards for certification to ban all those QR codes like we have on this voting system, and to decertify all systems certified prior to the new standard. So virtually all of the electronic voting systems are going to be decertified. Wonderful news. And here's some more good news for you. We have a bill. We're on sine die. This is the last day of the legislative session. And we have a bill, Senate Bill 214, that if the House passed today, would basically also rid Georgia's from these QR code ballot marking devices. It's called Senate Bill 214. So if anybody's watching, I would urge you to call the governor's office right now today, 404-656-1776. Or call House Speaker John Burns' office, 404-656-5020, and ask them to basically pass Senate Bill 214 today, We're out of time. We're going to go to midnight tonight. So those numbers are 404-656-5020 and 404-656-1776. That's something that everybody can do that's watching the show, because it's a federal election. Their votes are impacted even in other states. So the people of Georgia, deserve it. But not only that, the legislature deserves to protect votes not only from Georgians but also from others who participate in the federal election.
Absolutely, and everything. Hey, everything affects everything, everybody. So get out and get that election's today, huh? Right now.
That the legislature is last day of the legislative session. We have only one day to pass that bill.
Okay,
We've got some other good
get
bills
on
out
them
there.
to pass it. We've got to get on them. I want to quick say something about the importance of things going on about our election platform, getting to paper ballots hand counted. You guys all know, and maybe you don't, you better look it up. The Supreme Court in Wisconsin, they voted in, the state of Wisconsin voted in to get rid of to get voter ID, to make it mandatory voter ID, but the one completely against it wins in Wisconsin. We know for a fact it was a stolen election. Why would they steal this election right in front of the whole world and blatantly did it, everybody? I'll tell you why, because it's so important to evil. Just in that Wisconsin Supreme Court, everybody, over the last 4 years, that was the one court that voted that there was fraud in Wisconsin, and crooked Robin Voss said, I will go to bat for it. I will prosecute, because we know there was widespread fraud in Wisconsin in the 2020 election. But until a court rules on it, my hands are tied. Garland, 3 weeks later, they ruled on it that there was widespread fraud, and Robin did nothing. I swear what they do, these traitors in our country, they go, what would Brad do? What would crooked Brad Rasmussen? Let's give him a call. Brad, what would you do? Well, you just lay low, hide out, man. You're caught. Just like the summer of Carrie Lake when she won in the primaries. They go, oh no, now what are we going to do in the general election? They called up crooked Brad, and Brad said, you know what you do? You turn off 147 machines on the day of the general election, and you turn everything into a mail-in ballot, and you got it solved. That's an easy way to cheat. But we got to get
Mike,
rid
the
of,
only people that's covering that, the only person covering that is you. We talked about it this week about what's going on in Wisconsin. I know you have some proof in the pudding of what's going on there as well. I want to dig into more on that with you next week, because no one else is talking about Wisconsin and the elections going on there. They supposedly voted in a Democrat, but yet at the same time they voted for secure elections, and it's just not adding up. So I know you have all the paperwork there that tells a different story that the mainstream media is not going to cover, but I know you will.
Yeah, I got to ask Garland before he goes, Vanessa. Garland, do you think now it's 4 years later when Vanessa talks about the mainstream media there, and we've gotten bigger here at Lindell TV. We have people in the White House now and at Capitol Hill. In Georgia, as you're finding things like this case here, did that get big coverage in Georgia? Did it even local in Georgia? I didn't see this on Fox News.
Well, yeah, good point. The curling case got a fair amount of coverage because it became a high-profile case because it was brought by mostly Democrats, as you said. But cases that are brought by Republicans are shoved under the media rug, not only in Georgia, but nationally. So again, the double standard, not only in the judicial system, but a double standard in the media. And I just want to, I think let this be a lesson to all of us as to how corrupt the American judicial system really is. It's its own mafia.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, well, that's all the time we have for today. Mike, I know we don't want to go into Bannon. People love you and they love Bannon. But Garland, it was so good to have you on. Thanks for, yes.
Yeah,
always a pleasure.
To our country.
Thank you, Mike. It's great to be back with y'all. It's been a while since we've hooked up, so it's good. Good to be here.
Well, we're
good
back
to
in
be
the fight. Bring it on, crooked Brad. We're ready.
And Garland, you have my contact information now, so when there's updates, feel free to message me and keep us posted on what's going on there in Georgia.
I'll put you on our media list. Thank you, Vanessa.
Thank you. And that'll do it for us here on the Mike Lindell Show. Have a great weekend, everyone.
You ever see
That's
this
it,
guy
Mike.
with
Thank
the pillows on Fox? My Pillow guy, Mike Lindell. He is the greatest. The My Pillow guy, Mike Lindell. And he's been with us right from the beginning.